Hi guys, Khamagani, Jaipur.
Pranam, good morning, Kamangani. It is my pleasure to speak with Amish this morning. Amish's book is probably, the Chola Tigers, is probably the most violent thing I have ever read. However, it was such a pleasure when I spoke to him for the first time, and we've only just met 25 minutes ago, because he was such an eloquent, open-minded person. And I thought, instead of just focusing on the book, let me give you Amish. Because you can buy the book, you can read it, I hope you will, but he's so different from how the story unfolds that I would like to give you Amish instead. So, Amish, first question. Why have you dropped your surname?
Okay, firstly, before I answer, my wife is here, Shivani. Can everyone please give a loud round of applause for her? She's from Jaipur, so all the Jaipurites applaud even louder. I think those who've read my books, I'm assuming everyone has. Yeah? Who hasn't read my books? Shame on you guys. Okay, the books are all available, and I will be signing the few who haven't read. So those who've read my books would know that I've never actually put my surname on my books. Look, Amish Tripathi is my legal name. It's what's there on my passport, on my driving license. But those who are from North India, particularly UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, would know that this is a caste surname. And I think one of the things that weakened India and our way of life was the birth-based caste system. Dr. Ambedkar had written in his book, Who Were the Shudras, that the Varna system wasn't actually based on birth. He'd quoted the Bhagavad Gita as well. Lord Krishna had said, Chaturvarnyam maya srushtam guna karma vibhagashaha. That he created the 4 Varnas based on guna and karma. Guna means attributes, karma means your deeds. Birth is not mentioned anywhere. And Dr. Ambedkar theorized that the birth-based caste system emerged probably around 1500 years ago. Modern genetic research seems to back that because intermingling between different groups reduced around that time. And you notice a few centuries later, India started losing to invaders. Invaders used to come to India very often. You know, Alexander came to India, right? Yeah. And, you know, and he actually fought Porus. Everyone knows that? What is the original name of Porus? Obviously, his Indian name wasn't Porus, right? That's a Greek name. Anyone knows what's the original name of Porus? No. Porus' original name. You know his surname. What is his surname? Ved. He was probably from the Anu tribe, but anyone knows? It was either Puru or Purushottam. This is one of the problems with our history, man. We know the bloody Greek name of our king, not our own name, right? He fought Porus, who essentially ruled a quarter of Pakistani Punjab. That's it. So small principality. And Alexander was actually almost, it was a draw, basically. And Alexander couldn't come deeper. Not just him, various invaders used to come. The Huns defeated much of Europe. When they came to India, Skandagupta roundly defeated them, and he was so angry, he went to their homeland and massacred them so that they couldn't come back. But come 1000 Common Era onwards, we started repeatedly losing to invaders. I think one of the reasons was we divided ourselves because of the birth-based caste system. This is my small statement against it. Judge me as Amish, not where I was born. Judge me for my karma, not where I was born. And if I can make an appeal to all of you, the birth-based caste system is not just adharmic, it weakens us. It's unpatriotic. We have to work against it.
Thank you. So that brings me to the next question. You have chosen to write about the Chola dynasty. Your books, you draw from history, you draw from mythology, which is ancient fiction. What are your drivers?
a love of dharma. I think particularly in the modern day when uh, often so many different cultures are struggling in how to get along with each other, I think dharma can really help. Dharma is not just religion, dharma is above religion. Dharma is that which sustains, that which balances. And I try and write of dharma in my books. Equally importantly, a love for India. I'm deeply proud of the land I was born in, deeply proud of the land where we all are. Uh, I think, I think our education system does not give us an adequate understanding of how truly special this land is. And I try and explore that through my books. That's why I write what I write. Even the Cholas, for example, they're from South India. Any South Indians here? Any Tamilians here? Yeah? And you'd know that the South Indians did not get fair representation, right, in our history books. Fair point to say? Yeah? Anyone who studied in the national curriculum textbooks, you remember there used to be 1 or 2 chapters that would come in the middle, meanwhile in the South? Remember that? Yeah? And I studied in Tamil Nadu actually. I studied at a boarding school called Lawrence School, Lovedale. I had Tamilian friends out there. That's why I'm one of the few North Indians who can pronounce Kadagam properly. It's not Kazakam, it's Kadagam. But I remember when this section of the textbook was discussed, my Tamil friends, my South Indian friends were upset. Like, what the hell do you mean meanwhile in the South? You know, that what, we're just some like afterthought. And everything that happened only with you Punjabis. And then I said, but I'm from UP, I'm not a Punjabi. No, anyone Maharashtra northwards is a Punjabi. Okay, that was their bias, right? But if you actually think about it, the South at least gets a meanwhile in the South. West India, Central India, East India, Northeast India, we don't even get a meanwhile. All our history textbooks are obsessed, especially the last 1,000-1,500 years, of the region between Khyber and Agra, that everything happened only out here, right? We don't get an adequate understanding, a complete understanding of our land. The Cholas, among the greatest dynasties that we've ever had, Rajendra Chola's empire was bigger than Akbar's. You won't have that impression if you read our history textbooks. These dynasties, these regions need to be covered. That's why I try and explore these parts of our history as well. Rajendra Chola was not just a Tamil emperor, he was an Indian emperor who happened to be born in the region that is today Tamil Nadu.
So now I'm going to ask Amish to read a passage from the book by possibly my favorite character in the book. And I think this is kind of the crux of the book for me. And I'll ask Amish to give a little bit of background before reading it.
All right. Those who want a more detailed background, you can, read the book. I'm assuming most people have bought the book already. Okay, just to give you a brief, this book is based on the destruction of the Somnathji temple. As I'm sure you're aware, there was a program, the Honorable PM had gone there a few days back. It was a 1,000-year anniversary of Mahmud Ghazni's attack on the Somnathji temple. So this book is based on, and Rajendra Chola, as I'm sure many of you are aware, was a very devout Lord Shiva worshipper. And he was so angry with what Mahmud Ghazni did at Somnathji that he ordered an assassination squad to go to Ghazni to assassinate Mahmud. This book is actually the tale of that assassination squad. So this is a conversation. This is while the squad is still traveling and their adventure towards Ghazni. There are 2 characters. One is Vijayan, who is the Tamilians would know Vijayan is from the Vaigai river area, where the Meenakshi temple is. And Amal is an Indian Muslim character who's a part of the squad.
And a woman.
And a woman, yes. I'm an inclusive writer that way. She's a woman who's a part of the squad who is going to assassinate Mahmud. And this is a conversation that happens between Vijayan and Amal. And they are discussing why this assassination is important, why hitting back is important. So it starts with Vijayan. Charai Veti, Vijayan quoted a famous mantra from the Aitreya Upanishad, which translated as keep walking, keep walking. It's not a Johnny Walker slogan, okay? It actually comes from the Upanishads. Essentially, one must move on from the past so that you can rebuild. It works many times, this attitude, said Amal. I'll not deny that. We don't wallow in past enmities and grief. We pick ourselves up and move on. But many people from other nations are unlike us Indians. They refuse to move on. That's why you find so many communities across the world blaming the descendants of those who oppressed their ancestors, wanting reparations and vengeance now, many centuries after the crimes had occurred. On the other hand, we Indians usually move on and rebuild our lives. That is why we always bounce back. That is why we're always successful. We don't become prisoners of the past. True, said Vijayan. Amal said, but. And as a wise man had once said, what is truly important in a long monologue is what comes after the but. But while many of us Indians may forget, some of us have to remember. We have to remember and we have to avenge so that our enemies learn a lesson, that they cannot commit crimes against us and then pretend as if nothing happened. So many of our enemies want to trade with us and make money of our economy, telling us to let the past crimes be for now. Our enemies then win both ways. They can attack us when they want to and yet make money from us too. They don't like Indians, but they like Indian money. This cannot be allowed to continue. This is Amal saying it. This cannot be allowed to continue. That is why some of us Indians have to remember. We must bide our time if we have to, but we must remember. And we must strike back. Maybe not immediately, maybe sometime later, maybe even 500 years later, but we must strike back so that a clear message is sent to our enemies. If you want to mess with us, factor our guaranteed vengeance into your calculations, for we will hit back hard. Amal looked directly into Vijayan's eyes, but this stubborn refusal to forget and the desire for vengeance requires focus and discipline. Vijayan started laughing. And that is precisely what many of us Hindus don't have. We have many other strengths, creativity, passion, and ability to forgive and move on. But yes, we don't do focus and discipline. At least, most of us don't. Amal smiled. I agree. That is why you need us Indian Muslims, because we are focused and disciplined. We don't have some of the strengths that you Hindus have, but we have other strengths. And among them are certainly focus and discipline. We're stronger when we are together.
Would you like to unpack that, Amish? And also, can we do
For
the
me-
brushstroke of any ethnic community?
For
Can we
me,
say everybody is one thing and
look,
not the other?
The way I see the last 1,000 years, and we suffered brutal invasions. Will Durant, an American historian, had said that the Turkic conquest of India is perhaps the bloodiest conquest in human history. What we call the Delhi Sultans and Timurid Mughals were Turks, essentially, Turks from Central Asia. And there are a few things which strike me about the way history is taught to us. First, the British colonial invasion is not called the Christian invasion, but the Turkic colonial invasion is called the Islamic invasion. Have you guys noticed that? Yeah? This formulation was made by the British Raj for obvious reasons. You don't need to guess what the reasons were. They were obvious. What was an Indian foreigner fight, as K.K. Mohammed Saab, the legendary archaeologist, had said, was converted into a Hindu-Muslim fight. But even more importantly, the way the last 1,000 years have been taught to us is that it's a story of repeated defeats. The aim was to convince us Indians that you are descendants of a defeated, cowardly people. Your lot is to be ruled by foreigners, so just accept your fate. Now, this was the formulation that the British Raj had, again, for obvious reasons. The bizarre thing is why this formulation continued post-1947. Because the same set of facts of the last 1,000 years that we lost various wars, the same set of facts can be looked at differently. Because the same invaders who came here, the Turks and the Europeans, went to many other parts of the world as well, right? Not just to India, various other parts of the world, Central America, Europe, so many other places, right? Africa. Most of the ancient cultures across the world were wiped out by these very invaders. But India is still standing, right? So for me, the story of the last 1,000 years is not 1,000 years of repeated defeats. It's 1,000 years of the greatest resistance in human history. No group of indigenous people across the world has fought so long and so hard to protect their culture. I've said this often, किसी ने हमारे संस्कृति को हमें खैरात में नहीं दिया है, हमारे पूर्वजों ने लड़के से बचाया है. For those who don't know Hindi, I'll translate. No one has given our culture to us as charity. Our ancestors have shed blood to protect it. Our back should be straight, our head should be held high. We are descendants of the toughest buggers among the ancient people. But our ancestors were brave, but they weren't perfect. There are many mistakes that they made. Among the mistakes that they made, there are various. I think we should analyze the last 1,000 years. Despite this bravery, why did we lose so often? Various things. I think we didn't do Purva Paksha that well. We didn't analyze the invaders that well. So we weren't clear what we were fighting. But among the greatest reasons was lack of internal unity. Right? So many times in the Timurid Mughal conquest of Rajasthan, we are in Rajasthan. Often there would be Rajputs fighting Rajputs. You guys know this? Yeah? One on our side, one on the Timurid Mughal side. Right? Jallianwala Bagh, everyone has heard of Jallianwala Bagh? Who was the guy who ordered the firing on Jallianwala Bagh? Dyer. Who were the people doing the actual firing? Our own Indians. None of them told their Gora boss, I am not going to fire on my fellow Indians, defenseless Indians, old men, women, children, they're not holding guns. I'm not going to fire on them. No. European boss ordered, they just fired. This happened repeatedly, the internal lack of unity. My plea out here is internal unity and understanding what our strengths are.
But in our diversity.
Sorry?
Unity in our diversity.
In our diversity. So all of us have different strengths, right? The Indian way of unity is unity in diversity. It's not that every flower has to convert into a rose, and if you refuse to convert into a rose, you'll be beheaded. No, that's not our way. You can be a rose, you can be a Rajnigandha, you can be a lily, you can be a lotus, and you can be the best flower that you are. And the unity that binds us is the light string that converts us into a mala. That is our way. So all of us have our own strengths. We must play to our strengths, but never pick the side of a non-Indian against an Indian. Have internal debates if you want. That's our way of life, okay? You put 10 Indians in a room, you'll probably have 21 opinions, because each Indian will have 2 opinions and we'll argue with ourselves. Okay? That's who we are.
But that's important.
That is who we are.
Question ourselves.
We should be who we are.
Yeah.
We are not a compliant, one truth kind of people. We are the kind of people who debate, argue endlessly. That is who we are. But never pick the side of a non-Indian against an Indian. There's a lovely line that's said in UP, Kaurav 100 और Pandav 5, तीजा आए तो 105. The Kauravas may be 100, the Pandavas may be 5. If an outsider attacks, be 105. That has to be our attitude. That is one lesson to draw from the last 1,000 years. We must be united. And look, this moment in history when so many things are changing, this is among the best geopolitical moments to revive Mother India. Among the best times in the last many centuries to be an Indian. Let's not mess up now with stupid internal divisions.
However, you just said if you had 10 Indians in a room.
As a wise man had once said, what matters after a long monologue is what happens after the however.
So, however, You said 10 Indians in a room, 21 opinions. So how do you define Mother India? And I'm glad you call her mother, because he is a feminist. I've met his wife. The book is lots of breast-beating men, but the two people, the only two women in the book, are the ones who deliver. So, how would you define Mother India? We are so many. You believe in the freedom of speech.
Yeah?
Yeah? We are an eclectic collection. So how do we define it? How do we say we are Indian, you are not?
Anyone who loves India, anyone who has the soil of Mother India in his genes and blood, anyone who's here who places India above everyone else is a child of Mother India. That's the way I see it. And that does not mean that we block internal debates. That does not mean that we don't criticize the things that need to be improved. How will we improve if we don't criticize the things that need to be improved? Our parents do criticize us at times. That doesn't mean that they hate us. They want us to improve, right? It comes from a place of love. So as long as that loyalty and love is there, like for example, I always say, you have every right to hate your government. You have every right to hate your bureaucracy. The line stops when you start hating Mother India. That is, in my mind, inexcusable. Because that's when India itself starts falling. And look, if the ship of Mother India fails, all of us fail. We need to remember that. Sorry? Tell us about the books. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing it back to my books and the marketing of it. Thank you. That's the plea I try and bring out in my books, right? That why is a sense of patriotism so important? And what is patriotism, right? Does patriotism mean that you cannot criticize things that are worth criticizing? No, in fact, there are things that I do criticize, okay, in my books that are worth criticizing. But it does not mean you pick the side of a foreigner against a fellow Indian. That is the line, the way I draw it, right? And for me, my books are messages that I try and give across for the modern day, right? Through a story that is set in the past.
So to bring it back to the book as well, after a series of violence and a lot of fighting and blood, you end with a philosopher, you end with a guru, you end with them being older and wiser, and wondering whether that violence, that destruction, was it worth it? Tell us about that.
India has never been the place, I mean, we have a self-image that that's always been, we have been a pacifist country, right? We have the oldest pacifist tradition in the world, Jainism. My wife is a Jain, by the way, which is good news for me. But we have a warrior tradition as well. And that means that we fight to defend ourselves. We don't fight to conquer others, right? And that's what I try and bring across in this book as well. So if Mahmud Ghazni attacks, we're not going to turn the other cheek. Okay? If we had done that, we wouldn't have survived. If we hadn't got our vengeance, we wouldn't have survived. And the war is done brutally because that's the way wars are. Wars are not fought politely. But if you end up enjoying the violence, as happens in, sadly, in many other countries who are just conquering endlessly, and we've seen that in the last 1,000 years, some cultures have been really brutal in their conquests. And you notice that many of these cultures, when there's endless violence, the cultures themselves over time become dysfunctional. Those societies become dysfunctional. So you find the necessity of war. You have to fight when you have to fight, as Lord Krishna had said. But where do you decide that this much and no further? Where do you draw the line? Which is why philosophers are also required. Which is why, for me, ending the book with that philosophy, with that 1,000-year prophecy, is critical. You have to know when you have to fight, and then you have to know when you stop fighting. Right? I think a lovely way to put this is through an example that I saw at a temple, at the Ranakpur Jain temple. We'd gone, how many Jains out here? Yeah, large number. And I'm sure you're aware of the Jain version of the Ramayana, where Lord Ram is completely non-violent, and obviously Jain version, right? Non-violence, vegetarianism is central to the Jain way of life. We went to this Ranakpur temple, and at the Garbhagriha, inside the Garbhagriha, was Adi Guru Rishabdev, right? The founder of Jainism, the paragon of non-violence, of pacifism. What I found interesting is at the door of the Garbhagriha was Bhairav Nath Ji. How many of you know who Bhairav Nath Ji is? Yeah, he's an Ansh of Lord Shiva. Yeah, and a particularly aggressive Ansh part of Lord Shiva, right? He was there in a Jain temple at the gate, where inside was Rishabdev, the paragon of pacifism. And Bhairav Nath Ji was shown in his traditional form. He's holding a sword, a shield. He's holding the cut head of a Rakshas, okay? And there's a dog drinking the blood of the Rakshas. Many of you may know the Rakta Bij thing, that if the blood of a Rakshas falls, another Rakshas rises. Think about this. This is in a Jain temple. And I asked the Jain Pandit that, why is this there? This is a very violent form in a Jain temple. And he says, this is the partnership that's required between the warriors and the pacifists. Rishabh Nath Ji is in the Garbhagriha doing dhyan, creating the beauty and culture that comes from pacifism. And Bhairav Nath Ji is outside saying, Aap dhyan kariye, till I'm standing here, not one Rakshas will come in. Right? And both of them realize the importance of each other. This partnership is what creates a strong society. That's what I try and bring across in the book. We need that pacifist tradition because that creates the beauty of culture, that creates aesthetics, that creates a culture that is worth loving. But we need those warriors as well. Because if you're not capable of defending that which is precious, then someone else will come and loot that which is precious. You need that balance.
A perfect way to end the session. I think you have an idea of who he is and what the books are about. We will open up to questions now. Can I please ask you to keep the question very pointed and direct? The gentleman with the orange scarf and the off-white kurta.
Hello, sir. Hello,
Hi.
ma'am. My question is, your previous books have been based around mythology, whereas this one revolves around history. How different was the research work and the background work that went in while you were writing the book?
Look, in terms of
Do
reading
you
the research
agree
work
with the
is-
question?
Yeah, very good question. In terms of reading, the research work is similar. You're just reading text. And I read a hell of a lot. I read at least 5-6 books per month. All that research keeps going somewhere in the back of the mind, which actually emerges in the book. Where the research can be different is many of the historical places, excuse me, you can actually visit and still see the monuments. Many of the ones that comes from the Puranas, you can visit those places, but you can't see those monuments and things, right? So, for example, Bareilly, which is in UP, is actually Panchal. That's where Draupadi Ma was from. But if you go to Bareilly, it's very difficult to find anything from the Panchal times, right? So when I write on the traditional epic things, it's largely based more on the reading. The places is difficult to do research on. When I write historical fiction, I can do both, right? So I can travel to those places and get a sense of what that area was like. When I'm writing the Chola Tigers, I can visit Gangaikonda Chodapuram and see those places and get a sense of what it was like. So that's how the research process is different.
Any other questions? The lady in the middle with the sunglasses and black t-shirt. In the middle here? Yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. I'm Khushi. You spoke about Mother India and holding on to our Indian identity. As a 19-year-old growing up in a time where the world feels like a small village and there are so many influences and so many ideas flowing, What do you think that young people like us can do actively to stay rooted to our Indian identity?
Oh, good question, yeah. Look, geopolitically, I think the era of globalization is actually drawing to a close. We are entering a phase of deglobalization. How it will emerge, I don't know, right? It'll be a decade and a half of uthal puthal. We'll see how the world emerges. Um, and you'll find things increasingly becoming more tribal. I lived in the UK, for example, for 4.5 years, and I found in many parts of the West, the anti-immigrant sentiment is becoming stronger and stronger, right? When the economy isn't doing too well, when the stomachs are relatively less empty, then the heart is not as liberal. It's natural. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's natural, right? What is the kind of world that youngsters like you will grow up in? Because it is a world that is deglobalizing, but it is also a world where communication is becoming more and more like a global village, right? You know exactly what's going on in the West, and so, because of social media, right? You're so much more connected. It's a time of confusion. It's almost like you have to ensure that your hearts remain rooted where you are, because the world is becoming more tribal. Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just a statement of fact. It's what one can see happening. But there will be more and more global communication. So there may be increasing conflict and chances of cooperation. So you have to be aware of what's going on. So if there's an AI innovation that happens in the US, it is going to impact you here very soon. So you cannot remain cut off from what's happening in the world. It's a challenging time, right, for all of you youngsters. But the thing with challenging times, it's a time of difficulties, it's also a time of opportunities. So if you can maintain that balance between your heart and the mind, you'll actually do very well in tomorrow's world. That's the way I see it.
Thank you, Amish. The lady right next to you.
Hello, sir. I've been
Hi.
a huge fan of your work for the
Thank
last
you.
15 years. I wanted to ask, you talk about the caste system, and you've also given a very brilliant idea in your Shiva trilogy on how castes can be segregated. But a lot of people actually look at caste pride as a way of maintaining their culture. Like, for example, the Rajputs or the Judge, they say this is our culture, you know? So how do you look at that kind of
You
dual?
must maintain pride in your culture as long as that does not mean hating anyone else, right? So the line should be stopped there. Have pride in your culture, right? Of course we should. I would say the same thing in the language debate as well. Because what you're talking about in terms of caste happens in the linguistic issues too. There are states which fight very proudly for their language. And the local language must be respected. I support that movement. I don't think Hindi should be imposed on Karnataka or Maharashtra. Their local languages should be celebrated. But just because you celebrate your local language doesn't mean you have to hate another language. I might love my mother, that doesn't mean other mothers are ugly, right? As long as that balance is there, be proud of your culture, be proud of who you are. No need to hate anyone else. If that balance is there, then it's great. Like I said, we must, the Indian way of unity, every flower will discover the best that they can be, but find the string that binds us all together.
Or the garden that allows us to grow
Or the-
wild. Or the garden that allows us to grow wild. Any more questions? Let's have a gentleman.
Thank you.
Aja. But they don't ask, so can we have here?
Hello, sir.
Hi.
I'm Shikha Gupta,
Hi, Shekha.
and I am a wife of an army personnel. He is retired now. Sir, I really, really appreciate your books you write. Of course, everybody
you.
does. But I just want to compliment you. The way you write the war scenes, they are uncomparable. पुराने ज़माने का जो आप रथ और तीरों से और इन सब से जो आप डिस्क्रिप्शन देते हो, उसको एक बार नहीं, उसको कम से कम 10 बार पढ़ना पड़ता है, क्योंकि वो इतना अच्छा लिखा होता है, मन ही नहीं भरता उसे पढ़ कर.
Thank you.
आपका प्रश्न?
मेरा प्रश्न ये है सर, इट्स वेरी इलॉजिकल कि आप जो नए राइटर्स हैं उनको आप क्या टिप्स देना चाहेंगे कि वो अपनी राइटिंग के अंदर कुछ सुधार ला सकें? प्लीज.
Good research, yeah. And try and speak to experts. So, if you have to write good war scenes, doesn't mean you have to go around killing people. But meet warriors, meet soldiers, and try and understand, not just reading, right? So I get ideas because I keep meeting different types of people. And I try and, every person who you meet has something to teach you, right? And if you can have that attitude of an open mind of wanting to learn as much as you can from every person that you meet, that's one of the best ways to become a good writer. That's an obvious thing. The other obvious thing is read a lot. For me, my rough ratio for every page that I write, I read around 100 pages. That's my rough ratio. So if you want to be a good writer, you must be a good reader. Read a lot. Thank you.
And there we have a man.
We have a man.
Yay!
There you go.
By the pillar. Yes, please.
You can throw the mic.
Hi, sir. My
Hi.
name is Rahul.
Hi, Rahul.
Sir, I am a 23-year-old and I realized that I've recently stepped into the real world. And in the last 2 to 3 years, I've developed the notion that violence is a necessity to peace. And I think it's sort of a controversial notion, and I think our discussion right now resonated with it. So I would really like to know your opinion about that.
I think the perfect example was what I said about the Ranakpur Jain temple. You want to have peace, you need warriors at the gate, willing to defend. And you shouldn't have only warriors in a society. That becomes a society that just devolves into random violence. Then you end up becoming like Syria, like Pakistan, where there's just so much endless violence, there's no opportunity for a good culture to emerge, right? You need a balance between the pacifist and the warrior traditions. But if your way of life is only pacifism, it's a matter of time before you'll get conquered. You need warriors at the border, and the society needs to respect and support those warriors. The only ones who can defend you from the barbarians outside are your warriors who are willing to die to defend you. And if you don't celebrate them, if you don't honor them, why will they fight and die for you? That balance has to be struck. And the best way, the way I see it is, never land the first blow. Never be the first person to hit. But if someone slaps you, you don't turn the other cheek, you freaking box them back. That's my approach, right? I will never hit first, but if you slap me, I will hit back, right? As long as that balance is there, you're good. That's the way I see it.
With the right balance of moral intelligence?
Of course, moral intelligence. That's dharma.
I know
So
you're
with-
running out of time, but Amish, I just want to ask you, you're talking about the temple and the symbolism of the warriors. In temples, is it not about your inner enemies, your hatred, your envy,
That
fighting
too.
that? And
That-
not really, going out and the vengeance you talk about, that's what I wanted to ask you.
This needs a longer answer.
Inner demons, yes.
There are inner demons as well. But the sad part of the way the world is, there are outer demons too, right? We've seen in our epic tradition so many who are doing yajna peacefully. Rakshasas come and attack. And unless there's someone defending and fighting those Rakshasas, the yajna will not survive. This is the way the world is. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just the way the world is. There are societies which have tried pure pacifism. They haven't lived to communicate their tale. There are enough and more examples of this. You have to fight your inner demons, yes. Because if you don't control your inner demons, then you yourself become a demon, right? There's a lovely line in Batman. I mean, it's a movie, but it was deeply philosophical. I'm paraphrasing it. Actually, no, it's from my book, because that thing was different. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to become a villain. But I put a different line in Suhail Dev, that the biggest challenge in fighting a demon is not in losing. The biggest challenge is in fighting that demon. You will yourself become a demon, right? And how do you find that balance? You have to be able to defend yourself. Otherwise, the people you love behind you will die, right? But how do you ensure that you yourself don't become a demon from whom others need protection? That's why dharma is needed. You need that balance.
I am so sorry to cut this short.
So sorry.
Speaker's lounge. We'll get him. But I'm being told we're out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.